basal ganglia is an ancient part of the brain, and it is named because of the two core pieces of the basal ganglia, the striatum and the pallidum. The striatum consists of the caudate and the putamen, and the pallidum is the globus pallidus internal and external segments. These two areas derive from the ganglionic eminences of the telencephalon. And you can review the development lectures to remind yourselves of that. We share the striatum and pallidum with the earliest chordates. I mean, think about a hagfish. A hagfish has the same essential need for the basal ganglia as we do, which is that there is one motor plant. You've got one set of muscles. Those muscles can only do, one muscle can only do one thing at a time. I cannot simultaneously relax and contract a muscle. So I cannot simultaneously abduct my right eye and adduct it. I have to choose. And the chooser is the basal ganglia. So that is the core mission, and that is phylogenetically ancient. Now we have a much more complex set of circuits within the basal ganglia than does, say, the hagfish. And there are a number of reasons for that. So one of them is that we have gravity to contend with in a way that marine animals do not. And the complexity of needing to oppose gravity, well, they have gravity to contend with too, but at a lower acceleration. We also have a much more complex body plan. So we have limbs, we have digits, we have facial expression, and we have a very complex laryngeal arrangement. And linked to the more complex body plan is the fact that we have a bipedal gait. We have bipedal stance, which frees our hands to do other stuff. So now we have the choice of doing stuff with our hands in addition to doing, while we're also doing, say, something different with our legs or trunk. And the way that we can actually do more than one thing at a time, that all happens through the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia has two core missions. One is operational learning and one is action selection. And these are related. So operational learning is happening from the day one is born and continues hopefully till the day you die, which is to learn the effects of what you're doing. So for example, when a baby pushes on a button and then hears a ding dong, or pushes on a door and the door opens, that baby is making the connection between their own action and the effect of that action. So that is operational learning what it is that you just did. And now if the result is good, you want to do that again. And in the future, that action may be favored, whereas a different action that gave you a result that you didn't like so much may be disfavored. So operational learning and action selection are basically the learning and execution versions of each other. We're gonna learn what it is. How do we affect the world? How do our self-generated actions affect the world? And then we're going to choose those self-generated actions that gave us good results and choose them preferentially. So this is essentially, I think about it as the basal ganglia is a casting director. It'll take all the possible actions that you could possibly want, and it'll say, okay, all of you can audition, but only you get the part. And then once you get the part, once you're a favored action, you're not always favored. And so at any one time, then you morph into the director of a play or of a movie. Who's on stage at any one time? Well, you might be favored under these circumstances in this scene, but in a different scene, a different action is favored. Okay, so that's a broad way to think about the basal ganglia. And before we go into the how this works, how we actually get actions selected and engaged. So this is like start the action. It's important to understand that at root of the default circumstance, the default condition that the basal ganglia dictates is to do nothing. So this is my nephew. He's very successfully showing the default action of the basal ganglia. The default action is that there is no movement. Default action is no movement. All right? Do nothing. And something has to be of some degree of salience in order to overcome the default. And that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at chunking in the next video.